Welcome to Management 459, Jan Term 2017. I'm Deborah Olson, and just wanted to do this video for you because the first class I've decided to put online. We are having our Jan Term start exceptionally early this year due to the fact that obviously New Year's Day is on Sunday. So what I wanted to do is to give you the opportunity for a bit more flexibility in terms of your winter break and also ensure that we cover all the materials we need to cover. So what I'd like to ask you to do is there's 3 things that need to be done before we meet for our first on-the-ground class, 8 o'clock, January 5th. We are currently scheduled to meet in the Landis Academic Center. We have a classroom there, number 103. And we will start each class when we meet on the ground at 8 a.m. So what I'd like to do is to give you a quick overview. First, I have all of the rubrics and assignments that we're going to be using for our class this term already uploaded for you onto Blackboard. So the first thing you need to do is to go through the 2 folders I've created. The first one is the leadership interview paper, and that's an individual assignment worth 100 points. You'll need to identify a leader whom you can interview. I'd like you actually to start thinking about that as soon as you can. And you'll be conducting an interview with that person, and you will be linking concepts from 3 of our chapters, and that will be the chapter on motivation, the chapter on groups and teams, and the chapter on organizational structure and design. And those 3 chapters will be the basis for the paper, and I'll go through the details with you of how to set up the interview questions and then the format for the paper. But I have included a sample paper online for you on Blackboard that you can see from a student who took my class last year, during the Jan term actually. So you can see what level of detail that you need to have in order to be successful in writing that paper. The second rubric you need to review is under the tab of the group project and presentation. Now this is, by definition, is a group assignment, and what I have loaded up for you on Blackboard under that tab is the information that gives you the nature of the assignment. You're going to be determining which nonfiction movie you'd like to select, and as a group you'll decide what movie you'd like to select. And then what you'll do is analyze that movie in light of 3 specific organizational behavior concepts we'll cover this term. And I have also put up a sample group presentation from my Jan term class last year, and it was on the movie The Pursuit of Happiness with Will Smith. So you can look at that PowerPoint as an example of the level of detail that needs to be reflected in that PowerPoint. This, however, is only a group presentation. It's not a group paper. So I know that's a sigh of relief for many people. It's not a group paper. So you'll have the individual assignment with the leadership interview. That will be a paper. The group assignment will be only a presentation that we'll be doing on Monday and Tuesday on our last week of the Jan term, the 23rd and 24th. So that's the first thing you need to do, is to go through the information, the syllabus and the rubrics and the samples for those 2 assignments on the leadership interview and the group project. The second thing you need to do is to read chapters 1 and 3 from our Greenberg textbook. And by the way, you're welcome to use any edition of Greenberg that you would like. The chapter orders are the same, and it's absolutely fine with me, whatever edition you'd like to get. What I'm going to ask you to do, and this is due by noon on our first class meeting, which is January 3rd, but again, this is an online class. So if you choose, you can read chapter 1 before we get together, or even before the class starts on January 3rd, and you can submit. I have 4 questions I'm going to ask you to look through chapter 1 to find the answers and give detailed answers to the information in chapter 1. It's to be about 2 to 3 pages, single-spaced, and I have a tab set up for you on Blackboard so you can submit your paper at any time that you would like before noon on January 3rd. So if your travel schedule or other plans prohibit you from actually submitting it and doing the work on January 3rd before noon, you can do it at your convenience between now and noon on January 3rd. So that is the assignment that will be due before, and it must be submitted. It's worth 20 points. If it is not submitted before noon, you will receive 0 on the assignment, because again, this is not a canceled class, it's an online class. So there is a deadline for submission of this Chapter 1 summary. The third assignment, and it's also posted, you'll see the tab that I've formed where it's online class for January 3rd. The third assignment is the high performance bikes case, and I've got the full case posted up there for you. And this is to be done before our class meeting on January 5th. What you need to do is to read the high performance bikes case. This is about 3 people who are applying for the job of the vice president of operations at a bicycle company. And the bicycle company is looking to go global. So they're looking for somebody to fill this job. It's a newly designed job, and all 3 of these candidates are viable candidates for this position. Now, the reason I've taken this particular case to correspond with Chapter 3 is Chapter 3 is about perceptions and attributions about people. And we all have different perceptions and perceptual biases, and we're going to use this case as a way to understand our perceptual biases and attributions. So what I'm going to be asking you to do is read this case, and I have included, you'll see on Blackboard, 2 specific examples that you can use as selection criteria. And what I mean by that is we have found in looking at selection that unless you have clear criteria, your biases take over, and you're likely to judge candidates based on other attributes that have nothing to do with the job. So what I'm going to ask you to do is to look at developing a list of criteria, and you'll see the 2 that I've put up are leading and managing change and visionary leadership. And then I have a few bullet points listed underneath that define what those are. So you need to have 4 total differentiating criteria. The other criteria, you determine what will be relevant, and there's information in the case that will help you determine what else the candidate needs to possess. The thing that I ask that you not do is to focus on baseline criteria. And what that means, baseline criteria is years of experience somebody has in the job or their educational background. So those are baseline criteria, and I'm going to ask you to not use those. All of these candidates have equivalent educational background and equivalent experience, even though they have different years of experience that would have prepared them for the Vice President of Operations job at High Performance Bikes. So for January 5th, for Thursday, you need to take the 2 criteria that I gave, add 2 more, and you're welcome to do web search to understand criteria, to get the definitions of these behaviors, and use that information to help you prepare and identify these other 2 differentiating criteria. Then what you need to do is to take the 3 candidates. The 3 candidates' names are Jennifer, Jason, and Jonathan, and you need to read the background information that I've given you in the case. And then you need to rank each candidate against the criteria, one being managing and leading change, and the other would be visionary leadership. And then you'll have 2 more criteria that you'll add. And what I suggest you do is to create a little table ranking Jennifer, Jason, and Jonathan on each of your 4 criteria. You probably want to use a 1 to 3 point rating scale, with 1 being poor fit for this criteria or poor examples of behaviors in this criteria. The other one, 3 being excellent fit. So 1, 2, 3 rating scale. And then what you can do is tally up the numbers. If you use a 3-point scale and you have 4 criteria, then of course the maximum number any candidate could get would be 12, and that would be a perfect score on the criteria itself. So that would be what I'd like you to do for the 3 candidates. Then as you look at the data, of course you're going to see that you'll have 1 candidate who surfaces as the highest score. And then you need to make a decision as to, based on these 4 criteria, who will you select for the role. So After you've made that decision, whether it be Jennifer, Jason, or Jonathan, and again, all three are good candidates for this job. So you need to determine, given the data, which one is best. And this again is an assignment before we meet on January 5th. I'd like you to do it independently. There's no need for you to consult with other people. The key is to look at the thought process and the logic and how you use the information from the case to make your decision. So I have put on Blackboard an example from one student's paper of a paragraph in which that student identified the candidate that, in this case, he rated as being the highest candidate. I took off whether it was Jennifer, Jason, or Jonathan. So this is an example of the type of paragraph you need to write to answer question 2, which is to take the criteria, take the data from the information in the case, and write one paragraph about Jason, one paragraph about Jennifer, and one paragraph about Jonathan, how well they meet the criteria you've established, and then for you to actually make a decision about who the top candidate is and who you would recommend for this job of Vice President of Operations. So this paper will probably be about 2 pages long, single-spaced, 1 page for the definition of the criteria with your table that shows the ranking for each of the 3 candidates, and then the second page with 3 paragraphs, 1 for each candidate, where you do a narrative description of which candidate, the criteria, how the criteria match for each of the candidates' background information. You are going to see on the case, there's what's called an assessment report. And each candidate has an assessment report. And what this is a report that was written by an external consultant to High Performance Bikes Company. And the consultant made observations of each candidate in what's called an assessment center. So that assessment report is an outside third-party review of the strengths and weaknesses of each of the candidates. The other 2 pieces of information you have for each candidate are their resume and then a biographical statement of how they see themselves fitting in for this job. So again, the write-up for that, probably about 2 pages. You're going to bring a hard copy of that to class because we're going to be discussing it in class, and then you're going to hand that in at the end of class with, and that's the first assignment worth 10 points toward your participation credit for the class for the entire term. I'll have multiple cases that you'll be working on, and each will have different point values associated with it. So in summary, I look forward to meeting you face-to-face on January 5th on the 3 things you need to do for our first online class, which is January 3rd. You need to have reviewed the syllabus and the 2 assignments, the individual leadership interview and the group project assignment. The second thing you need to do is answer the 4 questions from Chapter 1. And then the third thing you need to do is read Chapter 3 and then write please type up actually and bring a hard copy to class of your answers to the 2 questions for the High Performance Bikes case. And again, you bring that with you. That is not to be submitted in advance online like the chapter summary is for Chapter 1. So if you have any questions at all, I will be around. I am not traveling, but I will be checking email regularly. If you have questions on this assignment, Blackboard will be open for your convenience, and you can email me at any time, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. In the meantime, have a wonderful winter break, and I look forward to meeting you on January 5th. Take care now.